South African journalist and editor Dianne Hawker joins me to dig deeper into the story. Dianne, good to see you. And well, the government announced a new Eskom board on Friday. How has the news been received?
Well, there's been mixed reviews about the board. I think one thing that South Africans and commentators are happy about is that the board is actually being constituted. Previously, there were only 5 members of the board. However, the legislation allows for there to be as many as 13. And there were questions about why the other board positions were left vacant for so long. We also saw late last week some former board members resigning suddenly just before that announcement. So it was a little bit of a chaotic period. There is some happiness, however, about the members of this new board. For example, the chairperson of the board is Mpho Makwana, who is someone who's also served on Nedbank's boards, one of South Africa's 4 large banks, and he's also worked in the platinum mining sector as well as at ArcelorMittal. There's also on the board a number of people who actually have an engineering background, which is something that has been called for by the commentators for some time, saying that the board should actually have a majority of people with an engineering background to ensure that they actually know what is taking place. So we've got Busiwe Vilakazi, who has an MPhil in engineering, and at least one other board member who has a background in engineering. Now, of course, the board has quite a lot to come in and rectify along with the Eskom leadership. And that will be the real challenge as to whether they will be able to actually change the situation in South Africa. As you mentioned in the intro, this is now the 4th week of load shedding, and the stages have decreased, but it is quite a frustrating situation for citizens. Myself, I was in load shedding just before this live. I had prepared to light my live with this lamp, but luckily the power returned just a few minutes ago, and I was actually able to continue with a proper power supply.
Let's see if we can quickly do this before the light goes out. But 4th week of load shedding, that's not too good a story. Now, has Eskom provided any indication of when this might end?
Unfortunately not. The Eskom statements are filled with words such as they're working on it, and they also indicate that they expect things to change soon. But really, the issues at Eskom are not things that can be resolved in the short term. And to be honest, South Africans have to prepare for at least another 2 years of blackouts on a ongoing basis. The issues really relate to the fact that the new power stations that were built, Medupi and Kusile, are not operating at optimum capacity. We also have a number of other power stations which are reaching the end of their lifespan, and they require extensive repairs as well as maintenance. And then one of our large power stations in the Western Cape, which is a nuclear power station, the Koeberg Power Station, one of its units has also been going through repairs for quite an extended period of time. So that kind of confluence of various issues has put us in a situation where the Eskom leadership says that the long-term solution would really be for the country to build more power stations. Now, that is not something that Eskom can resolve itself. It actually requires the government to step in with the funding, because Eskom's role is to operate the power stations and to ensure that they are managed effectively, but they are not the ones who come up with the funding for building power stations.
And Dianne, sorry to cut you there. Let me jump in here quickly before I let you go. We understand that the water supply is also being affected. Speak to us on that.
Yes, absolutely. In the city of Johannesburg and also in the Western Cape and probably other large metropoles, the pump stations are being affected by the increased load shedding. So when it was at level 5 and level 6 and level 4, we would see longer periods of load shedding or more sort of sessions a day. You would either have 2 hours times 3, or you could have 4 hours times 3 or times 2. And that would mean that the pump stations in certain areas actually could not pump enough water. Over this past weekend, my water supply was also affected, along with others in my neighborhood. And you found yourself having to try and fill containers, go to friends' houses to shower. And it's become quite a tough situation in terms of the load shedding.
Dianne Hawker, many thanks for speaking with us.
Thank you.